Alright, hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It's Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another wrestling review. So, right off the bat, as your king slash president, should I be president of the Nigelverse or should I be king? Should it be a monarchy or should it be a democracy? I actually haven't figured that out yet. But as the for the time being ruler of the Nigelverse, here's to you, my citizens. I'm making a decree. You are legally obligated to compliment my sweater. Isn't it a nice sweater? It looks and feels so cozy, doesn't it? But nevertheless, one of the reasons I'm wearing the sweater is because it's November. So not only is it Thanksgiving season slash turkey season, gobble gobble, if you do celebrate, that is, but it's also Survivor Series season. Now, I can't lie, especially with how a lot of things had been going this year or in WWE. I'm a little scared for Survivor Series this year, but we're gonna see what happens when we get there. However, in the meantime, we're going to be looking at some classic Survivor Series matches. We're not only going to look at matches that happen at Survivor Series, but we're also going to be looking at some of the traditional and somewhat non-traditional Survivor Series matches, including throwing in a bonus, which didn't necessarily happen at a Survivor Series per se, but is somewhat adjacent. So we're gonna be looking at that next week. But in the meantime, if you remember back at Survivor Series 1997, and it was Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship, a match that somewhat of a controversial ending. A match that's been talked about to death, so I'm not going to rehash it. Hell, I've talked about it here on the channel. Well, where her Vince McMahon essentially screwed Bret Hart out of the WWF Championship, and Bret didn't take too kindly to it. So that's obviously when Bret left for WCW and everything. He was already on his way out to WCW, but Vince, I guess, wanted to give him one last finger before he left. And of course, it's a moment that is very controversial. A lot of people feel like it's what really kickstarted the Attitude Era, uh, um, as if the stuff leading up to it didn't also. But yes, very infamous moments between two men who already couldn't stand each other. But what if I told you who that wasn't the first time they had met? And what if I told you that wasn't the first time they had met at Survivor Series? And what if I told you that wasn't the first time they had met at Survivor Series in the main event? In fact, what if I told you that 5 years earlier, Bret the Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, battled it out for the WWF Championship? If this time not in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, but instead in Richfield Township, Ohio. In the main event of Survivor Series. Excuse me. So it's time to look at that match now and see what happens when these two face under less controversial circumstances. I'm talking about Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship at Survivor Series 1992. Now, as always, I'm not a professional wrestling reviewer or analyst or anything like that, just a man who enjoys a good time, and I had a very, very good time when it comes to this match. But how does it compare to its 1997 counterpart? Let's find out. Now, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you can already know how this works. You have an idea, at least, of how this works. However, if you have not seen one of these videos of mine before, or if this is your first time, first of all, welcome. But also, what I'm going to be doing is going to be talking about how the match, some of the circumstances, I should say, surrounding the match, and talking about whether I liked, or I should say, what I liked, hate, and disliked about the match, and talk about whether I liked or disliked the match overall, which I absolutely loved this match. But you may be wondering, how did we get here? That is a bit of a winding road. So, at the time, Bret Hart was the WWF champion, and he had beaten Ric Flair for the championship back in October. Meanwhile, Shawn Michaels was had Shawn Michaels had taken the Intercontinental Championship from the British Bulldog. So apparently, he originally, at least according to the wiki here, the British Bulldog was going to defend the Intercontinental Championship against the Mountie, of all people. But the British Bulldog, aka Davy Boy Smith, was released due to steroid allegations because yes, that was around that time. But so he ultimately dropped it to Shawn Michaels on the November 14th episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, and so because it was kind of a last minute thing, and they didn't really have a Survivor Series opponent for Shawn Michaels and the Intercontinental Champion and the Intercontinental Championship, even though the Mountie was right there. I guess they didn't want to necessarily do heel versus heel. Well, at least I don't think. At least I think the Mountain. I believe the Mountie was still heel at the time. But they were like, "Hey, okay, we don't have a match for Shawn. Screw it, let's just give him a WWF title match at Survivor Series." And this Shawn Michaels was very like fresh off the Rockers. In fact, the Rockers had split up earlier that year. Technically, they had split up in 1991, but it didn't get on in December of 1991. But the segment, which was the infamous barbershop segment, Shawn kicks Marty Jannetty. Marty Jannetty tries to dive at the window in an act of cowardice. Uh, that didn't air until earlier on in 1992, and more simply in January of 1992. So this is fresh off the Rockers, Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. He was flanked by Sensational Sherry, but she was taken out accidentally by Marty Jannetty, and he in fact, Shawn is accused of pulling her into harm's way to he's accused by Sean Mooney, who they do like the interviews beforehand, and so Sean Mooney's with Shawn Michael. Those the two Sean's are together, even though Sean Mooney is spelled Sean, so the alternate spelling of Sean. But Bret Hart's with Mean Gene Okerlund, so they do like the pre-match interviews. So Sensational Sherry is accompanying Shawn at this point. Try saying that 5 times fast. And this was also the partnership that begat that version of Shawn Michaels theme that was sung by Sensational Sherry, where she's doing the vocals. It's pretty much the same as like the Shawn Michaels theme that we know, but it's Sherry singing it, and she's singing it from like kind of the first person point of view, even though even though the regular song is also sang from the first person point of view. It's sang from her point of view essentially. Oh, um, interesting variation. So, kind of show you where we are in terms of both these men's careers. Meanwhile, Bret Hart is WWE champion, or WF champion, I should say, has been on his workhorse grind, has been defending the title left and right. A very proud champion. They said he had defended it more than anyone else at the time. So, Bret really. Really doing his workhorse thing, which, hey, nothing wrong with. But as for this match here, in terms of what I liked about the match, for starters, lots of awesome action. Unfortunately, it's well documented how much Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels did not like each other at all. But for two men who absolutely couldn't stand each other, they always made magic together when they were in the ring. Whether it's 1997 or 1992, Shawn and Bret absolutely tore the house down. Shawn able to match technical prowess with Bret and really able to keep up with him was really awesome to see. There's a lot of fun back and forth and a lot of great action throughout. Out even Shawn nailing a sweet chin music and even getting tied up in the ropes at one point until Bret ultimately makes him submit. This was before like the tap out. Apparently, which I learned not too long ago, I believe it was Brian Zane's video on Ken Shamrock and WWF, how Ken Shamrock is the one who introduced the concept of a wrestler of like the tap out, so the verbal tap, like the like hitting the mat tap out, as opposed to verbally tapping out as they had to do back then. And because we do also see Shawn like do the mat tap, but that's not the end of the match. And I had to kind of rewire my brain to remember that, because I'm like, oh, they hadn't introduced that yet, but It's still a lot of fun action back and forth between the two. Shawn does what he does best, that being taking this guy's very fast paced, energetic offense. Bret, also very fast paced, but also very technical, and just about everything. I swear, every Bret Hart match I watch just makes me appreciate him more and more, and that's one of the reasons why I love doing. These older match reviews because I get to see Bret Hart doing what he does best, as well as Shawn Michaels, of course. Of course, I do love both these men's body of work, but especially Bret, getting to see him do what he does best and how everything looks so fluid and so just amazing. He really was the excellence of execution, and he definitely excellently executed all his movements and everything throughout the match. So, that was really fun to see. And just and the crowd very much into it, and I do love how it's a great amount of back and forth, like in terms of who's on top, and it really feels like it's anyone's match, that the match can end at either moment, with either one of these men winning the WWF Championship, even though you kind of know in the back of your mind they're probably not going to give it to Shawn just yet, but the way he's able to really keep up with Bret and really stay along with him, and the great amount of back and forth is what really makes this match interesting and very compelling. And it's just made for a very, very fun watch between these two, who obviously would get better and they'd wrestle each other more often as the years went on. But how to see how well they work with each other, or even as far back as 1992, is very much such a treat. And you can see Shawn really standing out on his own because, like I said, this is very much fresh off the rockers. So, oh, I imagine a lot of people, like the casual viewers hadn't really seen as much of Shawn on his own just yet. And even though it's been several months, the breakup technically happened in January, and we're now in November. Um, but we really see Shawn coming into his own, standing on his own as a singles guy, and Bret kind of in a similar way because Bret obviously was in a tag team at one point as well as part of the Hart Foundation, of course, alongside Jim Neidhart. Or, uh, to see to see those elements of things as well within the match really makes for a spectacular watch. And this isn't really a like or dislike, but something interesting I noted is that after or Bret wins in celebrating, Santa Claus comes out, and he comes out. He kind of celebrates with Bret. Snow, like fake snow, fills the ring. Man, even back in 1992, they couldn't wait for December to to do the Christmas related stuff, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, so Santa does show up. Jolly old Saint Nick, Chris Kringle. Chris, shouldn't you be getting ready for Christmas? It's it's but but I guess but I guess Santa decided, yeah, screw it, I got some time. I might as well well, I might as well stop in and celebrate with the WWF champion, and it is also something worth mentioning. I just looked it up on my calendar here on my computer, and they did allude to it on commentary. This Survivor Series actually takes place on a Wednesday, so Thanksgiving was the day afterward. Not too many pay-per-views I can think of that took place on Wednesdays, but they had some like weird day pay-per-views back then, and hell, there's stuff like even Taboo Tuesday, but that wouldn't be till much later on. In terms of what I didn't quite like about the match as honestly, the in-ring work is fantastic. The commentary gets kind of annoying though. So the commentary is Vince McMahon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. And uh, um, thankfully, as I'm looking at these older matches, I'm getting more familiar. Well, first of all, I am getting more familiar with Bobby Heenan on commentary, but I'm also getting more familiar with Vince McMahon on commentary, and seeing his dynamic. And on their own, both are really great commentators, especially Bobby Heenan, very legendary commentator, of course, as well as manager, but especially on commentary. but they argue quite a bit in the match. And commentary, bickering, and stuff like that, it happens. Sometimes it can be pretty entertaining. In this case, it got pretty excessive and it got pretty annoying and almost distracted. It pretty much Bobby is totally just slobbering over Shawn the whole match. Vince is trying to be more like the straight man or like the Jim Ross in a way, where he's trying to reel Bobby Heenan in, and Bobby's kind of pinging off of him. It's not, and it's not as like annoying as sometimes, at least, like Jim Ross or Jerry Lawler, but it does get kind of annoying and it gets pretty excessive. And it does get a little grating at times. It's like, my goodness, will you two just cool it? It's like they do way too much of the bickering, and it does get pretty annoying. But otherwise, still a very fun match. Now, which do I prefer? Do I prefer this match, or do I prefer Survivor Series 1997? Uh, both are great, kind of for two different reasons. I think I edge it out a little bit to Survivor Series 1997, if only because there is the Montreal Screwjob that adds that historical significance to the match, but also because that's 5 years later, and both these guys, they're great here in 1992, but by 1997 we see how they've grown so much and they have become a lot more seasoned in the ring. But even though they are still, like I said, they are still fantastic here at Survivor Series 1992. So I think 97 edges out just slightly because of that. But this is still a very fun match in its own right, and I highly recommend checking it out. If you haven't seen this match, let's watch this match, and then you can watch their match at Survivor Series 97 for kind of added context or reference in a way. But I definitely also recommend giving this match a watch. But in the meantime, that is going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on those post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you never miss an upload. And let me know in the comment section below. First of all, let me know if you like my sweater. But also, let me know in the comments your thoughts on the match, my review of the match. Do you like this match? Do you like my review of the match? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.